Hey, welcome back to my channel. I wanted to do a little quick update on this car. A couple other things I found that I didn't know about, but as you can see, I got it over here by the lift. I had it up in the air. The front frame rail on one side is pretty bad. The other one has a little bit of rust, but the floors are like solid, and the rear frame rails only have a little bit of rust in the very back, last 3 inches maybe. But anyway, on this car, I noticed a couple quirky things that I'm hoping somebody out there can tell me about it. For instance, what is this? You see this little tab sticking out? What was this thing used for? It goes right to the door. You can see where it's a couple bolts, screws holding it. It's just a metal thing, but it has this thing protruding out of it. Is that so I can go ahead and dent other cars when I open my door, just slam it in there and put big dents in theirs? But yeah, what do you guys think that is? Can someone tell me? Because I would really like to know. And something else I noticed when I was screwing around with this car is it had this really cool converter down here, this the AM radio and this FM converter, which I thought was pretty cool. But then I happened to look over at this radio, and oh, that's kind of weird. It's got a bunch of space at the bottom, and I realized that's an 8-track tape player. There's an AM radio with an 8-track tape player. Didn't notice that when I bought it. I think that's pretty cool. I still don't know what that toggle switch is for, but I'm sure I'll figure it out, as I go and play around with it. Maybe it's for the converter. And one other thing, I got a vacuum gauge hooked up somewhere. I haven't followed it through the firewall and where it goes, but yeah, that's pretty crazy, isn't it? But yeah, I got that. So I thought, well, I'll check all this stuff out later. But one of the things I found the most interesting on this car when I was looking at it, and since I'm 100% sure this is a Golden Nugget, and everything says that they were made in Seattle, sold out of Seattle or shipped to Seattle or whatever over there in Washington State, I was looking at this Illinois license plate, and I realized the frame going around this license plate. I don't know if you can see that. The frame going around it is actually a Ford dealer in Washington, Seattle. So did the car come from this dealer when it was new? I just can't believe that metal plate's still on there. The plate surround. I find that really interesting. Just pretty cool. I know the guy said it came out of Chicago, the guy in Indianapolis that got it, which, there's an Illinois license plate on it. And there's some decals on it. But the front window has a lot of parking passes. As you can see, Wheaton. Then you got another parking pass. Then you got another professional engineering thing. Pretty much a lot of stickers. And over here on the driver's side's a couple more, 3 Wheaton passes and a vacation village. And I think all of them are in Illinois. The one thing that I don't see on here, which really surprises me, is no inspection sticker down here. I thought for sure there'd be an inspection sticker on this thing, but there isn't one. So, yeah, I just thought I'd add that 2 cents in there about that 8-track tape player, that license plate frame from actually out there in Seattle. But one thing I really don't know is what that thing is. Give me your 2 cents. I mean, it's definitely not door edge guard protector. It's just big old piece of metal sticking out of there and attached. Who knows? Maybe it's something that was cool. But my wife wants me to actually redo the car. She doesn't want me to sell it. She thinks it's a pretty rare find, and being that I wanted to do something different, a Ford, Dodge, something different, she thinks this would be perfect because it's rare, it's a Ford, and she wants to drive it. She said she'd drive this car, shows in a heartbeat, as long as I painted it all back to golden black, which I told her there's no other option. You have to put it back to the way it was. It just has to happen. And I know in my earlier videos, if you've ever watched them, I always said that, I missed out on a lot of cars. And I always thought that cars would find me. And if I did get a car, it was meant to be. It was meant for me to own it. And I believe this car was meant for me to own it. The guy had it for sale. He had it for sale for several weeks on Marketplace. I think 3 or 4. He had this and another car he's trying to sell together. And someone else bought the other one and said they didn't want anything to do with this one. They didn't like the looks of it or anything, and there's too many parts missing, which, a fender, a bumper, that's not a lot of parts missing, no. So they passed up on this car because it didn't appeal to them. He said other people had came, they looked at it and said, well, that front frame rails are rusty. They don't want anything to do with it. That's all repairable. You just have to have the desire to fix it, and once I found out what this is, I've got the desire to fix this. I think this would be a really awesome car. So we're going to keep it. I don't know when I'm going to start on it. I have other things I've got to do, before I start taking something else apart. It's kind of cool, though, to own it and know I own it. I still have these. These are my 2 cars I need to finish up. When I say finish up, I mean that convertible top cylinders are leaking. I need to pull that apart and get that going and fix that. It shouldn't take too long. That, I really need to get the transmission pulled and pull that pilot bearing out of there and see what's wrong with that bearing and why it's making noise.